you have social unrest because now they can't export anymore. We're not buying. So those factory workers don't have jobs or will be getting laid off. And so what do you do with 1.3 billion people that are mad and angry? So our thought all along has been, yeah, well, the government there will be forced to start being more of a consumption economy. But, you know, this thing is going around the globe so dramatically and with such power, this slowdown. It's hard to see them really, you know, making enough of an impact in '09. Our view out longer is this shift will occur and that we better get ready, not only as an economy, not only as Americans, but also in our portfolios for that shift to occur. And that's a long run idea that we're working with. But '09, don't see what we call the decoupling happening. The decoupling meaning U.S. developed, not good, decoupled, China able to consume. We don't see that in '09. So it's not going to be pretty.
So it's just not Mendocino County that's been devastated by this whole thing.
I think you know that.
Yes. In the community.
Yeah, I mean, just thank goodness you're not in Detroit, right?
We're about 6 months behind the rest of the economy. Yeah. We're going to take about 6 months to come out of it after they've gotten out of it. Right.
So
we seem that way.
The fees are a little less than 0.5% of 45 million.
Right, 46 basis points. Yes, a little,
yeah, a little half.
Yeah.
Isn't that over $200,000 a year?
Oh, I don't know the size that you were considering for us. I'm not sure, but whatever that works out to, yes.
Okay.
Which I would,
we'll look at that.
I would assume is about equivalent to what you're paying now.
So if we have 45 million, would our fees be over $200,000 a year?
Yes. And those fees are built into the returns that I showed.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Right.
We just want to make sure that we understand what the fees are.
Mark, I just had a question. When you were at the beginning of your program, you talked about going from when you were the core program, and you went to Core Plus, and you started bringing in the other emerging markets and that kind of thing. You had to have some type of a tool that you use to show the increase in the return compared to the increase in the risk and that kind of thing. There's a variety of them out there that are used to determine whether or not it makes sense to go into a new area.
Right.
Do you know what you
yes, I think I may have included a page on that, but if not, I can go by memory. But let me make sure I take a look here. Okay, I don't have that page, but we also offer the same strategy as a core strategy, meaning non-allowance of the plus. And historically, that's yielded about 30 basis points less on an annual basis versus the core plus, with the same level of risk. That, I think, is the key. In other words, you measure risk via standard deviation, okay? So the standard deviation of the two strategies, core and core plus, have been the same. Yet the core plus investors have, on an after-fee basis, returned about 30%, or 30 basis points more annually.
What I'm getting at is that in the past, the board has had presentations dealing with one way of determining risk return comparison of the fishing frontier. Do you use that, or do you have another approach that you follow that tells you whether it makes sense to go into a different area of the market?
Right. What we use something, and I don't want to get too technical here, but one of the main measures we use is called tracking error. So tracking error. Okay. And actually, a page that could demonstrate it is the one I hit early on, which is page 4, which shows the index as that diagonal line. What we want to make sure is that we are not introducing more than about 100 to 150 basis points of tracking error, meaning the trades that you have in the portfolio, the themes, the Fannie Mae, the bank theme for us. Also, we have a yield curve steepening theme. Those are 3 big themes we have right now. We want to make sure that we size them properly, because we don't want a diamond up here. As funny as that sounds, we know if we post something up here, we're just as likely to get it wrong and post something down there. So the the tracking error is the best, measure of that octane. So that is how we go about the risk sizing. I think that's what you're asking.
Right.
And then another question, or when you were talking about, and you showed your little grid there with all the different orange and yellow and green
Yes.
things. And one of the things I don't even think you talked about was an issue I hear a lot about on the banks and their willingness to lend money.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear as a follow-up to that, it's not they're unwilling to lend money, but they have this issue of marking to market. And they don't have the wherewithal to issue credit because their assets have gone down so much in value that they don't have a plus on the balance sheet. Is that, am I misinterpreting something that I'm hearing?
Some of that's the case. I think, and I'll give you the example that I think ties into that. Let's look at what Paulson did. Remember, the original TARP plan was he was going to go in and buy assets that were impaired off bank balance sheets. And then he punted and said, you know what, we're going to invest in banks. Because of, I think, the issue you're bringing up where, okay, you remove the bad assets in option 1, are they still going to lend? In option 2, when you actually put capital in the banks, which is what occurred, banks are actually levered. As much as, we don't like that word leverage, if we all try to get our money out of the bank account today, they don't have that money. The old, what's the Christmas movie? It's a Wonderful Life.
Right.
Banks are levered about 10 to 1. 10 times the amount of capital that they have is the amount of assets that they lend out or create. So by installing these capital infusions, now you should be giving the bank 10 times the amount of capital to start lending out that you just put in. Some of these banks receive 10 billion, times 10. So there's 100 billion that they can now lend out that they couldn't before. Are they doing it? I think I'm reading the same reports from you that you are. No, they're not doing it. They're sitting on it. They might be investing it in bonds, for goodness sake. Maybe they're buying treasuries that were, they got the money for free, so, let's buy treasuries, and guess what? They drove the treasury yield to 0. So now that's gone, and so who knows what exactly they're doing with it, but let's hope that they're doing the right thing, which is, hey, TARP's here to help the country. Let's use it to start getting businesses lent to.
Any other questions? Comments?
Mark, on page 16, you have there's the diagram of the umbrella, and you've got the governmental agencies. Could you go into a little more detail than you did with respect to, so at the bottom we have the forecast, and then you have the actual, and you were talking about, you generally sort of referenced sort of your investment or purchasing strategies that kept us, under the umbrella. Could you go into a little more detail of how, and sort of historically, but also prospectively, what kinds of issues or concepts are you using or exploring to go, I guess that would be the difference between the actual and the forecast? Right. Isn't that where we want to be going?
Yes, and what I want to make sure you know is this is printed material from 9/30. A lot's changed since 9/30. Our forum, this is hot off the presses from last week. So all of these numbers are different from here. Let me go through a couple of them just to show you the magnitude here. The forecast, look under the U.S. We're here at the left side. U.S. forecast for GDP was 0.25% to 0.75% positive at that time. As of last week,